Given that I've been extremely satisfied with my MSI GE72 Apache Pro notebook for all of my video editing for the past 6 months, when MSI South Africa's notebook division asked if I would be willing to review their GS40 6QE Phantom notebook, I jumped at the opportunity. This 14-inch slim form factor gaming notebook is the pinnacle of what MSI has to offer in terms of a low profile and discreet gaming system. So did it live up to my expectations? Let's find out. Let's get the specs of the notebook out of the way right up front. The 14-inch panel sports a 1080p IPS display with no backlight bleed from what I could find. My review sample of the Phantom is powered by an Intel Core i7-6700HQ processor, 16GB of DDR4 RAM running at 2133 MHz, but it can come in variations of up to 32 gigs. It includes a GTX 970M with 3GB of VRAM, a 1TB hard drive with support for up to an extra terabyte of NVMe SSD storage, with my model having a 256GB SSD configuration. It also has a 4-cell battery, 802.11ac killer Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.1. All of this is stuffed into a package that is only 345mm wide, 245mm deep, and 22.8mm tall, while only weighing in at 1.6 kilograms. Truly a diminutive form factor. In terms of I/O, there's the killer gigabit LAN jack, power input, USB 3.0 port, SD card reader, and mic in and hi-fi headphone out on the right, with an additional USB 3.0 port on the left, as well as an HDMI 1.4 port and a USB Type-C Thunderbolt 3 interface. On the rear, there's the typical exhaust fence, but also an interestingly placed mini DisplayPort output. It should be noted that on the GS40 6QD version with a 960M instead of a 970M, that mini DisplayPort is replaced with a connector for MSI's gaming dock, which allows for expandable external GPU performance. The 10 keyless SteelSeries keyboard has a single color red backlight and comes with all of the function keys that you would expect. The keys, in my opinion, feel slightly hollow, but provide a decent tactile feedback with barely any noticeable flexing thanks to MSI's sturdy construction of the GS40. And while I did experience some uncomfortable heat dissipation through the keyboard on my GE72 Apache Pro, I was happily surprised to see that the GS40 didn't suffer at all from the issues with the hottest portions of the notebook reaching 40 degrees above the actual keyboard. The touchpad has a nice smooth surface, although I was constantly frustrated and disappointed by the lack of dedicated left and right click buttons, but merely personal preference there. The battery life on the notebook is fairly good, with it getting 2 hours and 32 minutes in my typical battery test. This includes having the notebook set to high performance, running the screen at 2/3 brightness, browsing the web, and watching YouTube videos. The 1080p 30fps webcam is surprisingly decent, and the audio recording is exceptional for a gaming notebook, especially given the issues that I've continued to have with my Apache Pro in this department. The speaker solution is a front-facing stereo setup, with the overall volume being slightly low, but reasonably clear even at the highest of settings. Now moving into performance marks. The i7-6700HQ and GTX 970M provide ample power to play games on the 1080p display, even at the highest of detail settings. 60 FPS gaming on the go is definitely within the realm of possibility with the GS40. One of the concerns that I had going into the review of this slim notebook was that its cooling performance may not be sufficient to keep the higher end components cool for longer gaming durations. However, during an extended stress test, neither the 6700HQ nor the 970M displayed any sort of thermal throttling. However, the notebook did sustain volume levels of nearly 60 decibels due to the fan working full time to keep the system in homeostasis. Overall, the GS40 6QE is a top-tier gaming notebook packed in an understated form factor. The performance of everything on this notebook was exceptional, from the NVMe SSD running at 2.1GB per second sequential read and 1.2GB per second sequential write, to the SteelSeries keyboard and the gaming performance of the system as a whole. It's refreshing to see that MSI has chosen not to skimp on things such as the keyboard stability, webcam, and microphone recording to save space, instead opting to provide their customers the complete package. The GS40's closest competitor in terms of overall specs at this point is the new Razer blade from Razer. The GS40 matches that notebook in nearly every category except the display that's on the blade. However, given that the blade has a price premium of roughly $400 to $500 to the GS40, MSI's 14-inch offering makes a really compelling argument based on value. But that's in terms of the worldwide market as a whole. With reference to just here in South Africa, where Razer notebooks don't really have a presence, the closest thing I could find to the GS40 was the Gigabyte Aorus X3 Plus V5. The price difference is still 7,000 Rand in favor of the MSI notebook. I can see no reason why you shouldn't consider the GS40 if you're looking for a sleek and slim gaming notebook. The 1080p panel is less than what the Razer Blade and Aorus notebooks offer, but at the same time, that comes with the added benefit of attaining longer battery life per watt hour. It's more of a trade-off than a deficit. Overall, the MSI GS40 6QE is nearly perfect, the lack of a dedicated left and right click buttons being the only reason that I say nearly. Just like with my Apache Pro, it's evident here that MSI has no desire to cut corners when it comes to the overall experience of their notebooks. The keyboard, display, speakers, form factor, design aesthetic, and performance of the GS40 make it a notebook that I can wholeheartedly recommend if you're in the market for a 14-inch gaming notebook. And with that conclusion, I'd again like to thank MSI South Africa's notebook division for sending the GS40 Phantom over for review. Like this video if you found it helpful at all, dislike it if you think I'm wrong about the GS40. You can subscribe to stay up to date of all of my tech related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.